Hello, I'm Frances from Homestead, and I've been asked to demonstrate my no-fail pie dough. It really is amazing. I have had trouble when I was much younger. My mother was an amazing baker, and she made beautiful pie dough, but I never could seem to get it right. And so for several years as a young mother, I always bought pie dough or frozen pies, or I just didn't feel secure in how I made my pie dough. But one time I went with my mother to a demonstration at the church of pies, and they gave us this pie dough recipe, and oh my gosh, it has never failed. As long as I follow it exactly, it works perfectly. Here it is. I start with 5 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. To that, I add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Then I also add 1 teaspoon of salt. And then I add a tablespoon of sugar. Next, I'm going to add 2 cups of shortening. Our household likes the butter flavored shortening, so that's the one I choose. And so I just cut it in with the pastry blender. Now, if you don't want to have to cut it in with the pastry blender, I have used a large food processor, and that has worked out fine too. Now I just cut it in till it looks like it's all the flour has been incorporated. Now the next thing is a beaten egg. Now I beat an egg in the cup measure because I'm now going to fill the cup measure to 1 cup. And I use the beaten egg as part of the 1 cup liquid measure. My measurements have washed off in the dishwasher, so I've poured a cup of water into here and then marked it with some nail polish for 1 cup and 2 cups, so I can still use my measuring cup. Now I want it to be really cold water, so I'm just going to use water from my refrigerator dispenser. Now I just stir the water and the beaten egg together. You make a well in the center of your shortening and flour mixture, and then you pour in the 1 cup of liquid. The egg and water combination. And then I just use a fork. I happen to have a large fork that I use for this because it's 5 cups of flour. That's quite a bit, so I like a little bit bigger fork than just a dinner fork. But I've used a dinner fork many times. It doesn't matter. And then I just stir it with the fork until all of the dry ingredients are incorporated with the liquid. So this is what we want. We want it to be pulling together, and when you grab a handful, it's going to stick together nicely for your pie dough. So we use a lightly floured surface, and I get a ball of the pie dough. I also flour the rolling pin and the top of the pie dough. so we won't have any sticking. And we just roll it out to about 1/8 of an inch thickness. And then I fold it over in half to make it easy to put it in the pan. So I'm making a meat pie. I'm just making a small one, and I'm just going to make the meat pie in that little pie pan. And I just place it in half and then fold it over. And then just work the dough into the pan. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be putting a meat mixture in there and then a top crust. So this bottom crust can just get in there however we need. Now I use the back end of a butter knife because I don't need cutting, I just need a clean edge. And I tip it slightly down because it's going to shrink a bit, and so I want it to be large all the way out. I don't want it to be cutting in, so I tip it out and just cut it around. And add that to the pie crust. Now I'm getting another handful of dough. Add a bit more flour to the board, as well as the rolling pin on the top of the dough. And then just rolling it out. If you feel like you need more flour, just roll it onto your hand. Spread the flour around a little bit. You don't want it to be sticking. That makes it harder to get it on the pie. Okay, now fold it in half again. Lift it onto half of it. And then fold it over. Now this one, I'm going to cut it a little bit. I'm cutting it a 1/2 inch outside of the pie pan, because I'm going to be folding it under to prevent leakage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise up the bottom pie crust shell and fold this top over it. So I'm lifting it up and folding it under. And lift it up and fold this under. Lift this up and fold this under. Lift that up and fold this under. And this is why it doesn't matter if the bottom of the pie crust, if the bottom pie crust doesn't look beautiful and perfect, because it's not going to be visible at all. Lift up and fold this under. Lift that up and fold it under. Until you go all the way around. Okay? And then you have it all nice and secure, so you don't have to worry about any of the liquid spilling out from your pie shell. And then you can decorate how you like. I just pinch it around. I just give it a nice pinch all the way around. And when it bakes, it looks like kind of a rope. It looks like a rope edge around the outside when it bakes. And I'm just kind of pinching like you would pinch anything, probably using your thumb and your forefinger, and pinching kind of slant. I'm not straight at it or off to the side. I'm just kind of slant ways at it. There, and we've got a nice little rope going around. Now the next thing I'm going to do is make some vent cuts. So this is just what my mother always did, so I just have copied her, and that's the same vents that she always did. If I was making a lot of two-crust pies, I would do what she does, and I would make a C for cherry, or A for apple, or M for meat, or B for beef, or B for blueberry, whatever. Anyway, this is a meat pie, and this is all you need to do. Now, a lot of people will brush it with cream or butter and sprinkle sugar if it's a fruit pie, whatever. When I'm doing a meat pie, I'm good just the way it is. I don't feel I have to do any kind of topping or brush anything on it. I just put it in the oven just like that. Let's see, let's get a good look, good close up. Let's see the vent cuts and the rope. Now the oven is already preheated to 425, and when I'm using a raw pie dough, I always do 425 for 15 minutes, and then I turn it down to 350 and go for another half hour. Okay, the timer is set for 15 minutes. Now, I made a lot of pie dough, so I'm also going to make a pumpkin pie. When rolling out your pie dough, you keep pushing out to the edges from the center. Push out to the edges from the center. And then again, when you're ready to put it in the pan, fold it in half. Put it halfway in and then fold it over the other half. And then just work it in from the center. It's going to shrink, and so you want it to push in so you're filling in all the corners on the inside. And then again, we're just going to cut it with the back of the knife. So I've mentioned before in my harvest video how I prefer to use butternut squash because it's meatier, and it is. And so for baking, it's not as watery as pumpkin, and so I like to blend it up. So what I have here is 2 cups of butternut squash puree, and it's just been baked. And then I've taken the peel off, put it through a food processor, and then I stored it in the refrigerator. And so I've taken these 2 cups and I put it in the blender. And because it's not as watery as pumpkin, I like to blend it up with the wet ingredients of the pumpkin pie so that it gets a little smoother because it is more compact. So I have my chicken eggs. I need 2 eggs with 2 cups of pumpkin, and then 1 cup of cream. Now once I have the pumpkin and eggs and cream all mixed together, I'm just going to add the sugar and spices. So I need 3/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, and 1/8 of cloves. And I'm just gonna beat that together. And then that's ready to pour into the pie crust. And what you can do to kind of decorate the edge, I just do some fork impressions around the edge for a single pie crust. And then it goes in the oven. So the pumpkin pie needs 15 minutes on 425, and then you turn the temperature down to 350 for another 45 minutes. So I still have a little bit of pie dough left. So I'm gonna make a quiche Lorraine. It's a little bit crumbly on the bottom, so I'm just gonna pull it together. Again, we're just going to keep rolling from the center out. And about halfway through, I like to put more flour on the bottom and turn it over and just keep rolling from the center out. And fold it in half, place it on our pie shell, and then work it in to the pan from the outside. So if you get the pie crust in here and it's not a perfect round, you got a little bit of cracks here or there, it's very easy to fix it. You just dip your finger in a little bit of water, tap it onto it, and then just press it in place. And it's a perfect mend. And if you want to add a piece, you just cut a little bit off the edge and tap a little bit of water to mend it and just press it on. It's a very easy fix. A way that we can trim the edges, if you want to have a bigger crust than just pressing it with a fork like we did with the single crust for the pumpkin pie, we'll cut it about a 1/2 inch out from the pie plate, and we're just going to fold it under so that we can give it a little more definition and we can decorate a little fancier than just the fork. There. And so it doesn't matter if you did a little bit of patching, if there were some tears, because it looks perfectly fine when you folded it under. I just press it out to the edges, make sure it's all the way filled in. And then you can do the pinching again, or you can do a scalloped edge, where you do just kind of, you put your fingers like this and press. And this is called scallop. Now for a quiche Lorraine, we just need to sprinkle 1/3 cup of diced onion. You can do 3 or 4 slices of bacon that have been diced and fried crispy, and a cup of grated cheese. We need 4 eggs that we're going to beat up. Then we add 2 cups of cream, a teaspoon of salt, and some black pepper. We just pour this over the Swiss cheese and onions and bacon bits. And then this also goes in the oven. Beautiful meat pie. Look at that beautiful quiche Lorraine. Oh my gosh, that is just gorgeous. And the pumpkin pie turned out beautiful too. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the pumpkin pie so we can see how it turned out. It's been cooling for about 15 minutes. It smells so wonderful. The quiche Lorraine and the pumpkin pie, oh, the smells so good. It has a beautiful browning on the crust. It's just gorgeous. Still a bit warm, but I just want to show you how beautiful it is. Look at that beautiful pie. And the crust is so flaky. So beautifully flaky. It really is a no-fail crust. You gotta try it, you'll love it. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful for you. Until we meet again.